Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast. I am your host, Katie Fenske, and man, you guys, the sun is shining today. We're heading into the 3-day weekend. I'm recording this right before the Martin Luther King weekend. My birthday's on Monday. I'm turning 43. It's just a good day. So I'm hoping that some of that positivity is coming through this mic all the way to you. I always set the intention when I start my recordings. Like, I just hope this message, this conversation uplifts you and just brings you some positivity. So that's what I'm hoping for today. And I do have two amazing guests that are coming on. So I have on two friends, Megan and Katie. They're actually friends who I met through another friend, Vanessa, who I went to high school with, who I've known for years. But I recently got acquainted with Katie and Megan, and we found out that we all have kids at the same elementary school. So it was kind of a little connection. They are coming on today to discuss raising preteen and teen girls, how to build their confidence. So they both have 4 kids. They range from teenager all the way down to 1-year-old. And they have teen and preteen girls. So what I love about them, when I asked both of them to come on the podcast, their reaction was, "Oh my gosh, are you sure me? Why me? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just raising this girl the best way I know how and figuring out as I go and then, sharing what I know." And I was like, yeah, exactly. That's why you're perfect to come on this podcast, because that's what we're doing. We are learning as we go. We're figuring things out. We're making mistakes and sharing about it. So they are putting together a little workshop for their daughters and their daughters' friends called Girls with Confidence. And I love everything that they're sharing, the tips they're sharing, just what they're doing in this world for other moms and for these teen girls. So you're going to love the tips they share. As a boy mom, I absolutely adored this conversation because not only do I feel like this is helpful for me to hear, but also they're going to be raising these young girls and women alongside my boys. And I want my boys to be with these strong girls who are confident, who have good self-esteem. And I have friends that have girls. Like, I want to share this with everyone. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Katie and Megan. Hello, Katie and Megan. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm so honored that you are on. I mentioned in my intro that when I asked both of you, both said, "Oh gosh, why me? Like, I'm not an expert. I'm just a mom, like figuring it out as I go." And I'm like, that's exactly why you're perfect for this podcast. We're all figuring out. So why don't we just take a second just to I would love to hear the story of how you two became friends, because you've known each other since before either of you were teenagers. So just share that.
We met in the first grade, and then I think it was like the first week of school in the weekend.
The first week of school, I heard the ice cream truck out front, and so I ran out, and there was Megan at the ice cream truck, and we're kind of like, "Hey, wait! I just like met you."
Yeah.
And so it turned out Megan and I lived like 5 houses apart from each other.
Oh my God.
And we have been friends ever since.
Yeah, it was love at first sight.
37 years, I think.
So
like that.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then let me know how many kids you have and what their ages are.
We both have 4 kids. So my oldest is Finley. He's 17. And then Della is 13. Cooper is 7. And Indy is 2. Is that right?
Yeah.
I always have to double check. I'm like, how old?
Once you have a few, it just starts to get out of hand. You just don't really know anymore. So I have 4 as well, like Megan said. And so my oldest, her name is Charlie. She's 11. She's a 6th grader, so she hits that preteen. And then I have River, who's 8. I have Sailor, who's 4. She's turned 4. And then my youngest is Fenny, and he just turned 1 in October. 15.
You guys are still in it with those littles.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
At least we have each other.
Right. Oh, I love that. Okay. So we all grew up in the 80s and 90s. And when I look back at my like preteen, teen years, like it was hard, but things are so different for kids now. Like, are you seeing a big difference, or did you expect it was going to be like this as a mom of a preteen and teen?
I think social media is huge
Yeah.
because you
There's
you know
quicker.
when you're left out. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is being
You can
it's
see
seeing-
visually in real time
Whoa.
that you're being left out of something and your friends are off.
So it's
doing
not like
something.
you find out you were not invited to that sleepover. It's like you actually
Yeah,
see.
when you get back to school on Monday, it's right then and there, you know?
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
it just seems even harder. So, okay, I was going to ask you about phones at the end, but maybe you can talk about this a little bit. Like at what point do your girls have social media? At what point did you let them?
So so we have a family rule. This is our family
Yeah.
rule, is that my kids get phones when they graduate 6th grade. And then I was going to do no social media until 9th grade, but my son was in COVID times. So in 8th grade, I threw him a bone and gave him TikTok. So I had to do the same for Della.
Yeah.
And then one thing I did was I watched like documentaries with them, like Screenagers and things like that, so that they didn't know it was just me being like mean. But I definitely got a lot of pushback, especially with my daughter, about so and so has it, and I was that is fine. And I always just say that's their family rule, you know, and that's okay. And you know, and I say like someday you'll kind of get where I'm coming from, because for a 43-year-old who I like semi-evolved, it's hard for me. So
Yes.
Yeah,
It's hard
as
not
an
to be
adult
addicted to
navigate
it
the
as
internet.
I'm
Yeah.
addicted to it. Like, yeah.
I am.
yeah, so she has TikTok
Okay.
and then gets more when she hits the 9th grade.
Okay.
Charlie, like Megan said, we all have our different family rules. Charlie's had a TikTok for quite some time. But once again, it was during COVID that she sat there and would watch social media and and she would do all her little dance moves, but she's always had a restricted account and it's always been attached to my phone. So I can constantly monitor what she does. So I go on pretty much every night that I'm at work, I go and check her TikTok account. So she had a tablet, and now she got a cell phone for Christmas. And so now she has that, so she can do like the real texting and things. But like she had asked about having a Snapchat, if she can open a Snapchat account. And it's funny because Megan had said before, Charlie asked that Della wanted one too. And it was both something we kind of agreed that I don't like Snapchat because that's where you can send messages and they erase quickly and where there's no tracking. So I'm not comfortable with that. I would rather see stuff that I can see in real time whenever I pop in.
Right. God, it's such a different world that we're navigating with our kids right now. You know, it's not going away. Social media is here. And like, I love that you showed your kids a documentary about it. Cause my 9-year-old is like, Mom, why can't I have a phone? You're so mean. Like, it's not fair. And I'm like, it's not just me saying it. Like I've read articles talking about how dangerous it could be or how it's so hard for kids. So I definitely like that angle where you can say it's not just me.
Yeah. Research.
And that's like just last night, I went on my phone and checked Charlie's TikTok and somebody had followed her. And then Charlie sent them a message like, do I know you? And they were like, no, why? And she was like, well, as you know, I don't need you to follow her. And so I just went and blocked him and deleted him. And that was that, and reported him. So
yeah. It's a different world. Okay. So the two of you are putting together a workshop for your girls called Girls with Confidence. How did that idea start? Like, where did that come from?
I think because we both will tell each other what's going on with our daughters and kind of ask for advice and things like that. And then
it's really me calling Megan saying help. What's going on.
But how so fun you have that, you have a friend that you can bounce ideas off of, get support from.
Sounding board.
Well, and so Megan also for a living is a behavior analysis. So she's been studying this stuff for a long time too. So
so I think that we talk a lot about what's going on. And then it also stemmed from Katie. She is the team mom for her softball girls, and she's out there trying to give them confidence and trying to make them feel good when they're out there on the field. And so I think we were talking about that. And then also like Katie, something I really admire about her is that she is very confident in her skin, in her body. And I do think that her dad, since she's been like a little girl, did not put gender roles on her that so many of us are given. He taught her, how to change oil, how to do a tire. I mean, just the other day I was having an event here and I put the fire on and I didn't open up the flute and I was about to turn the gas on and she's like over there, oh wait, hold on, I got this. Da, da, da. Oh my God. So she also in the class wants to do that where we can teach, or she can, because I obviously can't even
yeah, like when we were younger, like my dad always taught, I mean, I adored my dad since I was a little girl. And so I spent so much time with him and he was always out in the garage tinkering around and he never limited me to, like, okay, well, come help me put the new floors in the boat. And we're going to change the spark plugs and distributor caps in the van. And I just got dirty and he was patient enough to show me how to do this stuff. And, so like when we were teenagers, I remember like driving down the 55 freeway and something happened to Megan's car and we like pull over on the side of the road and I'm laying there with like a shoestring, like tying up her bumper. Do you remember this? But like, just like MacGyver doing these things that I feel like sometimes it would have just been a car full of teenagers, like damsels in distress, like, oh my God, what do we do? And
yeah.
And I was like, no, don't worry, I got it. We'll figure it out, And so yeah, so I spent a lot of time in the dugout with these girls, and I've watched them grown from little girls to big girls now, or young ladies. And it's been the most enjoyable time of my life. And I just kind of, me and Megan were just brainstorming some stuff, and I just wanted to do something more with that. I wanted to make a more impactful
and confident and
in these kids' lives and little girls' lives, because I do feel like I had a certain sense of confidence, whether in a lot of things. And I just want these girls to know how incredible and how special they are and how much they can get through life, and it's gonna be okay, And
yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. And also like I can teach my boys skills that aren't typically, hey, come fold the laundry, come wash the dishes, like those things, because girls can be taught to change oil and all that. I just love that you do that. What are some specific things that you're going to teach them in the class?
I really would like to teach them how to change a tire.
Okay.
And check your oil, like some car maintenance stuff. I think is really important. How to do some things around like what a sink looks like, how to unclog a toilet, like just like things that are really basic, like survival, like self-sufficient stuff that you don't have to spend a gazillion dollars to call the plumber out, when you could just do it yourself. And sadly, a lot of times women are taken advantage of, right? So I don't want to see anybody's dollars go spent in the wrong spot if you can fix it yourself.
Oh my God, please teach them to change a light bulb. Back when we lived in LA, we had we rented an apartment above our garage, and there was like this 24-year-old girl. She called my husband one night and was like, "Oh, my light bulb went out. Can you come fix it?" And he's like, "Okay, like I'm your landlord, but I don't." I don't change lights for you. So yes, that would be a good one. Add that one to your list. Okay. You're also going to talk about coping skills to help manage anxiety and stress, which I think we can all agree the amount of anxiety these kids are under these days is like through the roof. What are some like tips or like tricks that you can teach girls?
I think what we'll be talking
in general.
Yeah. So my experience, like I run social skills groups. I used to do it more. I'm not doing it as much anymore, but like first things for the girls is to really like feel the feels of what's going on, right? Like don't ignore it. Sometimes like something will happen, especially with my son. So I'm going to talk about him for a second. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. But I can tell it is. So it's like, well, no, like it kind of is a big deal, or then, so really like, what is it exactly that you're feeling? Not just like, I'm mad, like now your feelings are hurt. You're feeling like left out. You're feeling a little disappointed. You're feeling like really being able, like Brene Brown says, like labeling all with what they're feeling so they can like process it, you know? And so like where Della sometimes it will be like it feel like she almost sometimes not overreacts, but really feels her feels, you know? So with her, I'll kind of to help her is like, I can see, you know, that this really feels like a big deal, right? And that's like something I say in like my social skills groups is like, it feels like, how does it feel? Okay, it feels like a 5, right? Yeah, okay. But now let's take a step back and like, what is it really? You know? But again, acknowledging that it feels big in the moment, because like sometimes like I could call my insurance company and like get annoyed and it feels like a big deal. Like I know it's really just
listen, lady.
Yeah, it's just a whine or whatever. So I think that the biggest thing is like, again, going through the emotions of whatever the situation is, identifying the feelings that you're feeling and not just pushing them down, because pushing them down, that's what's going to lead to more anxiety.
I'm fine.
Yeah, but it's like no. And so that's one thing that I try to do with my kids is that. And then affirmations, I mean, really, when especially Della, like when she's feeling the feels about something, writing affirmations for her has been huge. And I've asked her, like, because I've given her, you know, this huge toolbox of tools for anxiety and coping skills. And I'll ask her, like, well, what do you think's helped the most, you know? And I remember her saying, she probably, I don't know what she would say now, but this was like a year ago, was like putting essential oils on, not on her scars though. One time she put, I think she had scratches from the guinea pig, and she put the essential oils because she thought it would calm it down, but it gave it a burn.
It was a burn.
Yeah.
And it made me like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What do I do?
So we had a good, so
poison control.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So she says like doing the affirmations and smelling the oils.
Oh.
And
do you like, so do you write them out and like post them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then another one is, so this is what I do with my clients, but I've done it with, you know, Della and Finley, is like, you can like go online and there's like coping skills for kids visuals, right? There's like 100 different coping skills. And so what I'll do, especially with my clients, is I'll like read the list and be like, okay, do me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if it makes your body feel good when you do this. So it's like riding your bike or going swimming or taking deep breaths, right? Because it's like everybody's coping skills are going to be different, right? Like I like to run. A lot of people can't stand running.
Like thumbs down, no way.
Yeah. Yeah. So then for my clients, like then once I get that list, I'll put it up and be like, okay, remember when you're feeling these feels, like whatever it is for them, remember maybe to pick one of these.
You can turn to one of these skills to help eliminate that feeling.
Yeah. So I've done that with both my teenagers. And both of them really like exercise for them is what helps get it out of them. But it's not for everybody. So that's one coping skill. Another thing that I've done is guided meditations, like kid ones. It like warms my heart because I've done this one. I did this one when they were like really younger, and they will play it themselves sometimes.
Wow.
So you just online, but it's like so simple.
They like that. I wish that was something I knew about sooner. Like it wasn't until like my 40s that I learned about meditation. I like heard about it, but I never thought, oh, this is something like a normal person can do, and it's right there available on my phone. Whoa,
Yeah,
great
so
tool.
funny. I said my 8-year-old son suffers from a lot of anxiety. Since he was really little, he's had panic attacks. Like 4 years old, I'm at the ER making sure it wasn't a heart attack, it was a panic attack. And I think 4 or 5, right? Yeah. But I woke up in the middle of the night and he was awake, and I'm like, what is that noise? And there he was with his calming rain to like calm himself, because he's, you know, and it's just Yeah, that's so cute. It was his own coping film. Like, remember, he's like, oh, I couldn't sleep, Mom, so I just came in here and found, his little rain video or his waterfall videos so he can calm himself down and go to sleep. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's pretty cool when you start to see them actually really use the things that they probably looked at you first like you were crazy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now they're turning to them all on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because when you're modeling it too, that's the thing, you have to walk the walk, you know?
It's not just silly mom. Yeah.
No, yeah. And then I think this isn't necessarily a coping skill, but it is therapy. I mean, therapy, I just think if your child really needs it, is just huge, just to be able to process their feelings with somebody that is not emotionally attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think, and Katie and I can both agree to this, is that one part of having teenage girls that is so hard is that when they're going through it, we're also kind of back to 13. You're feeling
that's I think the one thing that shocked me the most is how upset I really get and how my heart feels. And I think sometimes I'm even more sad and emotional when I see my daughter being left out or getting her feelers hurt or whatnot, or someone said something not nice. And I am like, I immediately turn back to when I was her age and it happened to me and I feel it again. And I'm like, my first reaction is I want to go and wring some kid's neck, but then I have to throttle it back and
okay. Let me try my other skill.
Okay. How do we get through this in a constructive way,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Would you say you're very similar to your daughters, or are your daughters different than you?
My daughter we are not alike. She was out there in theater, putting herself out there. And I would never have done that.
Megan was a lot shyer.
Yeah.
When we were younger.
Yeah.
And I think Charlie and I are similar in a lot of ways. We're both very outgoing extroverts. I don't know though if I feel like I was as outgoing and confident as her at her age. She's a really hard worker. And she's she gets good grades. I mean, I got decent grades, but I didn't feel like I didn't care as much as she does. And so she is an athlete and works hard to be a really good catcher for softball and cares so I feel like confidence and friend wise and being outgoing, we're pretty similar, but she's just next level.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
I totally felt that when you said it takes me back to how I felt when I was a kid. Because I too, that mama bear would come out to see my kid hurting. Oh, it's so hard. Okay. You're also going to touch on body image. What are some exercises that could help with body image for girls?
So I think, for me, I have always been a big girl my entire life. I remember being in 3rd grade and I was at my friend Janice's house, and for whatever reason, we all got on the scale and they were in the 60-pound range and I was 88 pounds. And I'll never forget the 88 pounds.
It sticks with you.
Right then I realized I was somehow different. And so my whole life I've been overweight, and my highest weight I got up to was 335 pounds. And that was in 2008. But for some reason, I always had a lot of confidence. I was always still really outgoing. I always still loved myself. And I think a lot of that attributed to the way my parents held me and loved me, And so my daughter is a spitting image of me, except she's an athlete and I was a Girl Scout and I just went to snack and crafts and so she moves her body a lot. I would have
sworn you were a child athlete, the way you're so into her softball.
And I played softball the year before kindergarten and was absolutely lost and didn't know what was going on. And then I played softball when I was 21 because it was a beer league. And so I got to socialize with my friends. But I was never an athlete at all. But I do love sports. So I just, I was always pretty confident about that. So
I think showing them that, don't let your body define you, and that, unfortunately, most of us, there's parts of our bodies that we don't love. Right. And so really trying to love your body no matter what, right? Which is hard. It's
Well,
hard.
that's it. I just had this conversation with Charlie last night, and I said, God made your body, and God doesn't make mistakes, right? So your body is your body. And I'm a nurse, and I actually work in plastic surgery. So I see people alter their body every single day, which I think definitely there's some things that are life-changing for people. But loving yourself inside is what's going to make you beautiful outside. You can change all of this, but if you don't feel good in here and love who you are, this is never going to matter.
Yeah.
You're constantly going to be changing it. And I see it firsthand all the time at work.
Right. Is there anything you're doing
know?
to like really, other than talking to your girls about it, anything you're doing to really instill that in them?
I think, go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I just think modeling it, and for me, it was never a focus growing up. My parents never defined me and never made me feel like I had a weight issue. That was not something, and I have a handful of friends that also grew up with weight issues, and it was something that their parents put in the forefront. So if my child brings it up, then I'm there to support her however she wants to do it. And I don't talk about body image or, weight. I talk about being healthy. And that's my conversation that I have with Charlie. It doesn't matter what our bodies look like. It matters how healthy we are. We lost my dad and my brother. And so I've always talked to them about, being healthier. We need to do this so we can be healthy and live a long time. And learning to respect her body, and her body shape and size is a plus for being a catcher and having a girl run into her at home plate, but it's rough. I mean, she's had since she was in first grade, she's had people say things to her about her body, and that's okay.
Hard. Yeah. I feel like I was raised by, wonderful parents. They never said anything about my weight, but I was big also. I was always the tallest in the class, and, I'm not petite. That's not, my genes, but I've always felt like I had body image issues. And so having kids, I have to be very careful about what I say. I don't ever want to say, "Oh, these pants are so tight today," because they hear that. And yeah, they're boys, but I had my middle son the other day go, "Oh, my stomach's getting fat." And he is super long and lean, not an ounce of fat on him. And I'm like, whoa, what is he thinking? But I think he just meant I'm pushing my stomach out. I'm full. But I'm really careful now of what I say about myself in front of them and even to myself.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I also had weight loss surgery. So it's a hard thing for me because I am losing weight, but my purpose of losing the weight and having my weight loss surgery was because I lost my brother and he was only 48 years old. And I was very concerned that it was because of a health issue and a lifestyle issue. And I can't leave my kids in 5 years. I've got babies, so modeling that and making sure that she knows that I'm not doing this because I want to look a certain way. I'm doing this because I want to make sure my body's healthy and strong so they can have a mama for a really long time,
Yeah.
Especially because I'm an old mama.
Very nice.
Okay. What about, they always talk about, girls and cattiness, and it's so hard being friends. What are your thoughts on conflicts with friends and
Okay, so I'll take this one. So a couple of years ago, I saw a family therapist, or my son did, and I remember him saying whenever there's a bully, no matter what, you always stand up to them, right? And I was like that is ridiculous. You're gonna get your ass kicked, or you know what I mean? This is the stupidest advice I've ever heard. And it was I had my son had no issues, but from going into 6th to 7th grade, I wanted him to have just a one-time consult with a family therapist, just to be able to get all his nervousnesses out about going into junior high and what, because he didn't want to open up to me, so anyways, when this therapist told me that, I was like, oh gosh. And then as I started raising teenagers, I was like, no, you do. I think you have to stand up to, when somebody is being mean or catty or leaving you out or not making you feel good. So I think like in a constructive way. So yeah, the girls can be mean. The boys can be mean too, right? Like
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
not just a
think
girl issue.
I
No.
think it happens in both. And so I think like one of the ways is to say how to address it, but like in a constructive way and not like, well, you're this too. So like I remember about like, I don't know, 6 months ago, my daughter had an issue with a friend and her feelings were hurt. We did the whole like, how are you feeling? You know, and I'm like, well, and it's a friend that she wants to keep, right? And so, but her feelings were hurt, and some stuff was said, and you know, and I was like, you need to address this, and I like helped her, like, okay, what could you say? But again, not being mean to that person for being mean to her, but coming at it with like, and really, when you did that, it just made me feel like this. And when the girl came back and she was like, obviously a little defensive, you know, but then she was like, okay, but I hear you, you know, and
She
like,
probably never had someone approach her like that. You know, most of the time you're
yeah,
met with cattiness to cattiness versus like, hey, that really actually hurt my feelings and made me feel pretty bad, you know?
yeah. So I think like, yeah, there's the cattiness, but like, I'm addressing it, and but in a calm manner, not making fun of them back, not, you know, because when you're
A
like, hey,
dig
that
for a
really
dig.
actually really hurt my feelings, they're like, what do I do? You know, like,
Right. There is no
they're-
coming back with a argument with that. It's like, oh yeah.
yeah. And so like when my, you know, daughter's friend was a little defensive, I was so like, my daughter's like, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything, you know? You know, like, I'm not gonna like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Or like, she actually had a situation that happened. I think it's okay to tell this story, but somebody had posted a picture of her not so cute, right? And said something, and she was not actually, all the other girls were way more upset. It was in a group message for all these cheerleaders, and the girl was going to actually get kicked off the team because the head
Coach
coach
was upset that she
found
posted
out,
this
you know?
yucky picture of Della.
And so the girl was like, oh my gosh, you can take whatever picture of me and post it, the ugliest picture. And I was like, why would I do
I
that?
don't
Like,
want to do that. Yeah.
two wrongs do not make a right. And I was like, listening to her, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But she told her, like, you know, like, you made a mistake, but I really didn't like what, you know, that like,
Yeah.
it was so awesome to see her being able to like articulate it. So I think that's it. It's like, people are going to be mean. I mean, we still experience as
People are still
adults,
mean now.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
especially when you're behind a keyboard and you can fire off something so quickly and hide behind it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So going back, I think the thing is just standing up for yourself, you know, when they're being catty or mean, and also just like not taking it personal, you know, like realizing like sometimes hurt people hurt people. So I think that's like a big thing that like I know Katie and I both tell our girls, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, let's try to get perspective on where are they
Why-
coming from? Why would they do that? You know, what was their intention?
Are they coming into sixth grade has been like where I've started to see all this mean cattiness or just the drama starting to happen, and everybody's getting their big feelings and their hormones and whatnot. And so like my first incident, and I'm like calling Megan, like, Megan, what the hell do I do? You know, like, do I call the mom, this and that? And then she was like, no, now is not the time. We don't call the moms anymore and talk to
We're
her.
done.
We
no,
have to
gosh.
teach her how to handle this herself, because it's just going to cause more of an issue if it's like, oh, Charlie's mom called my mom and now I'm in
I'm in
trouble, and my mom
trouble.
this, that, and Charlie has a big tattletale. And so that's what I've been having to teach Charlie. Like, you have to do this yourself. And here's the things you could say. And like Megan said, okay, you don't need to be disrespectful when you tell somebody, but you need to tell them like, hey, I didn't like this. Same thing. Somebody had posted a video that she didn't like and it hurt her feelings when she saw this video. And so I was like, okay, like just here to coach you. Like, so you just need to tell the person, like, hey, could you please remove this video? It made me, made my heart hurt or whatever, however teenage language she wants to
The
could you
lingo.
move this video?
Yeah.
Like you write it and tell them, and then the girl looks like, oh, okay, yeah, and it's just like meeting them versus at a little bit of a higher level than like retaliating
Yes.
and yeah, and learning to, and that's it. I was telling a mom about one teacher. She's like, oh, you should call that mom. She seems like she'd be very receptive. I'm like, no, she's at an age now that she has to figure out how to handle this stuff
Right.
on her
Because
own.
we're not going to be able to solve every problem for them.
No. And I mean, I feel like for myself, like I see people that are in their 20s and 30s that haven't learned to speak up for themselves yet. And now they don't have that skill set and they're being walked over or allowing things to happen because they haven't been taught to speak up for themselves, and I
Or
just feel
that,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I was say like, if you're not going to speak up for yourself or fight for yourself or whatever, no one else is going to do it,
Mhm.
and until you finally have like had enough, and then you can go one or two ways with that, so I'm grateful for making me like, no, don't call that mom. This is the time. Like, this is your time to shine and you got to teach her these things. So
Mm. Well, I like that you're doing that too, because I feel like if my kid, if it was the other way around and my child was doing that, I would love for my kid to be called out. Because I guarantee those girls are probably like, oh, yeah, that was pretty shitty of me. Like, they're not gonna, they may not confess and own up to it right away, but they're not gonna inside feel like, oh, I'm fine. That was great. I want my kids to be called out if they do something like that.
I think a lot of times, like they're saying, like hurt people, I'm trying to teach Charlie and the kids that this isn't this isn't an issue of hers. Like there's a lot of things that
not
the
to take
other
it
child's
personal.
issue, yeah, it's not something that she necessarily did or anything. It's their own issue that they have. And,
Mhm.
and,
It's hard for kids to understand that. Like now looking back, I can be like, oh yeah, that bully that I had in elementary school, well, she was anorexic, she was this, she was that. Later on in life, I'm like, oh, she was dealing with a lot and it was not just me. But they don't see that in their little sixth grade, class.
Yeah.
no,
For sure.
So hopefully they listen to us. And take
Yeah.
advice. What's it like middle school? Because I've heard middle school is just like rough years. So Della's in eighth grade, and then Charlie's about to go to middle school next year, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
How are we
feel
feeling about
like
that?
it's the trenches. I mean, not to scare you, but
Oh no, I mean,
yeah,
I'm here for all of it. I mean,
just feel like it's like, let's just get through it, it's not awful. It's not like the worst. But I definitely feel like when Finley got into ninth grade, it was like, it's a little bit better over here,
there's a lot of hormones going
yeah.
on.
Why do you think that? Why are those 2 years, 3 years? So is it just they're changing so much in those ages?
Yeah, I do feel like I remember hearing somebody telling me like, your child, like once they go into middle school, they walk into their bedroom and they'll come out around 16 and you'll see this different child, and I was like, stupid.
No way.
But I really do feel like it's almost true. It's like they're just going through all the fields. I don't know if it's necessarily the age.
I think like they've like the sixth grade, so they like think they're going to like they're now becoming a little bit more mature, right? They're like, ooh, like we're seventh and eighth grade, we're middle schoolers, we're not in the baby school anymore. And like I don't know, but like I've also seen Charlie's like really interested in boys, like
Oh gosh.
oh, like so-and-so's got a boyfriend, mom, and and like that's like a new thing. And like you're like stepped out of like baby
You're like,
land in a sense. And
no,
now
you're
you're like
12.
in this like weird realm of like, oh,
But I also feel like it's
you
like
don't have the maturity yet to handle it either,
and they like put it out there. It's like middle school's awful. So it's like middle school, and even the teachers, I feel like, oh, like we're middle school teachers. So I almost feel it's like almost this self-fulfilling prophecy of like,
Did you feel that way when we were in middle school? I don't really remember feeling like it was terrible though.
I don't feel like I definitely liked high school better.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I definitely feel
High
like
school was more fun.
yeah.
Maybe because we can handle our emotions better.
I just feel like you're like in between, I guess maybe because you're in between that full teenager and kid, and you're just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Where I think
Figuring out where
maybe
you're
that's
at.
it. You're in the middle. And so you're
Yeah.
feeling like a middle child.
Well, and I think you're
almost.
trying to like find your group of like what you are.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, okay, who's my friend? What am I into? Well, I also think it was, as I got older, like it was like, what are we into? And now as we're older, right? Megan and I like totally different things. But we're still really good friends. But back then we kind of all had the same interests and dressed the same and listened to the same music. Or like
So I
matching
guess
outfits.
finding your identity.
Yeah.
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 Oh, I think you're right. It's like that in between stage between
Yes.
you're a teenager, you're like the little elementary school kid, and you're kind of thrown into it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a couple years to go still.
Yeah. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Okay, so to like wrap it up, what would be some tips that you would give parents who are in this stage, about to get in this stage?
I would say listen.
No, that's exactly it.
Listen, because most of the time they don't want your advice. They just want you to listen to what they have to say. And it's so hard because, like we were saying, you're so emotionally attached, right? Like, they said what to you? Like, or so I think, the biggest thing is like listening, and don't take it personal. Like sometimes, my kids will come home and they'll be, maybe they had a bad day or something and they're just a little bit crankier to me. Usually it's like, I feel like mom, because we're like their safe spot, right? Like,
we're definitely meaner to the ones we love.
Yeah. So I feel as though like there's times where I'm like, gosh, like, that was rude, but I'm like, don't take it personal. They're you were like we were just saying, like we were teenagers once. It's hard. And so I just try to remember that when I'm feeling like my feelings are hurt sometimes by their like moodiness. I guess like, just not to take it personal.
I also think, and I feel like we heard this together years ago, and I can't even remember who or why, but they were saying about like being the mom that is the carpool mom, being the mom that's there so you can just hear the conversations that they're having, so you know what's going on and you're involved. And that's what I do love, being involved in their lives and knowing I'm always there, because I do feel like Charlie is, I think a parent first and then a friend, but Charlie really is one of my little best friends. And that's been, I think, one of the best things about having her at this age is like, we do hang out and chill on the couch together and watch a movie. And she does feel comfortable enough to talk to me about anything at this point still. And I just, it's like having my own little best friend, and I enjoy that. And I want her to always feel like she can come to me, and I'm dreading, because I'm sure there's a day where she's in her room a lot more than she wants to be with her mom. But just trying to really be open and know that I'm always there for her, and then subjecting myself in situations where I can just be there and listen and hear and see, so I can make sure not just her, but all the girls that are in her life are safe and are okay. And that's even like when I check her TikTok and I see some of the videos her friends post, because they're my kids in the dugout that I love. Some of the stuff I'm like, does their mom check this? Because this makes me a little sad or whatnot. So I just want to keep an ear out for all of the kids. I want us to all make it through the trenches. And I want everybody to be happy and felt loved and held. And not everybody has the same family dynamic. And there's a situation where I heard a child say something to Charlie, and they basically said, "Shut up, Charlie, you get whatever you want." And I was like, well, that's not true. But what I'm hearing this child say is that she was just more envious of Charlie's family dynamic or her relationship with me or whatnot. And it made my heart sad that she felt different.
She's hurting.
Her heart was hurting for whatever reason with her home life, It's unfortunate.
I love that. You guys, that's the best advice. Listen to them. Don't take it personal, and be involved. Like that is so perfect. Well, I cannot thank you enough, because this was such great insight. I'm taking notes. This is one I'll probably like bookmark and listen to again, because it's constant reminders that we need. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
asking us.
Yes. This is
I was like,
fun.
are you sure?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
We're still in the trenches. That's great.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome. Thank you,
you.
Katie.